Chapter 5, Part 2, on franchising. There's a really interesting movie that I think is still out, or at least you can find it. Should be on Netflix pretty soon. On McDonald's, actually. It's called The Founder, and it's about Ray Kroc. And the reason why it's so fascinating is because Ray Kroc was not the founder of McDonald's, although he gives himself that credit. In fact, it was the McDonald's brothers. But what Ray Kroc did that was so innovative is he franchised McDonald's and made it the worldwide blockbuster that it is today. So let's look at franchising, because that's a really interesting form of business ownership and one that you may in fact consider at some point in the future. So franchising is really a specialized form of licensing in which the franchisor grants to the franchisee the rights to their name, certain business processes, and other support with the hope that the franchisee is successful. In exchange, the franchisor gets an upfront payment, and this varies depending on the business. I think McDonald's recently, at least, was a little over $100,000 up front, and then there are ongoing royalty payments that are a percentage of profits. So here are some of the rights that the franchisee obtains. And here are some of the obligations that the franchisee must meet. So franchising is interesting because it has extended to so many different forms. When we think about the history of franchising, I think people stereotypically think that Ray Kroc was the one who invented it, and that is really not true. It's been around a very, very long time, and in fact, it was started by a maid or former maid in New York who had kind of a secret formula for shampoo, and so she franchised into beauty products and was quite successful for that, and it caught on from there. So now it's amazing how many different types of businesses utilize franchising. And the current trend, as you probably noticed if you do any road trips, is the dual brand franchising, where two brands are offered together. And you might say, well, why not just start my own business under my own name? Well, because franchisees tend to be more successful than the purely I'm going to do it myselfers. And if you stop and think about what franchising is, that makes sense, because the franchisor wants you to be successful as a franchisee. I mean, think about it. It's in their best interest, not only because they want the ongoing royalty payments, but because their goodwill, their brand, their name really depends on your success and the success of the other franchisees. So there's that, and you're not recreating the wheel as you would if you were starting purely your own business, not a franchise. So here are some of the advantages of franchising to the franchisor, or the one who grants the license, and then the franchisee. So you can see it can be very, very advantageous in terms of the support. However, there are disadvantages. And to illustrate, it's funny that they in this slide, you see somebody cutting hair, which is very timely for the example that I want to utilize. A friend of mine had several, not supercuts, great clips. And it was funny because we were talking about motivating her employees, and she had done quite a number of different things with them and was trying to come up with something new. And she said, oh, I know what I'll do. And I should point out here, in case anybody is with Great Clips, that she no longer has those salons. But she said, I'll let him wear jeans on Friday. And I said, what? I don't get it. What's so exciting about wearing jeans on Friday? She said, don't you know that as a franchisee, you have to agree to a dress code, that the employees are not free to wear whatever they want? I said, no, I did not know that it was quite that stringent. She said, oh, yes, yes. And so that was deemed as an incentive for the employees. So it makes the point that as a franchisee, you are much more restricted than if you were purely on your own. And I'm not pushing the movie, but I thought it was fascinating. If you do see The Founder, you'll notice part in that when Ray Kroc starts expanding to different franchisees, and he quickly realizes that some of them go off maverick. One decides he's going to sell, I think it was chicken and biscuits, and Ray Kroc is very incensed. He says, this is not McDonald's. You're supposed to be selling hamburgers. And so he reined them in. As a franchisee, you do not get to do whatever you want. It is quite restricted. And that makes sense because they want to have a consistent brand image. So that is something to consider if you think that franchising might be in your future. So some global perspectives on small business. As of this speaking, the biggest franchise everywhere is Subway, interestingly enough. That has caught on like wildfire. So, and this makes sense, 70% of the world's purchasing power is outside of the United States. So that is indeed something you might consider